This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome. I am Jane Bolts, co-regional coordinator of the Southwest region of the Jane Austen Society of North America, and coming to you from Southern California. Our speaker today is Jennyvi Dizon, presenting Redesigning the Regency for the Runway. Thank you to all the donors donated to this event.
If you like, and then I can take a look at what you're doing, see if I can make suggestions.
We are returning to our first in-person meeting in this June, but we're going to continue to do our Zoom programs. On May 21st, we have Vicki Berry presenting Jane Austen's Ordinary and Extraordinary Life. On July 16, we have Devoney Lucer presenting sister novelists, the trailblazing Porter sisters who paved the way for Austen and the Brontes. Please watch for registration on our website, JASNA, sw.org. These are free Zoom programs open to all. Following this presentation, we'll take questions. So please put your questions in the chat, preceded by the word question. Our board member, Leah Poyatos, will be coordinating the Q&A. In addition, if you have technical problems, please do not interrupt the speaker, but put your concerns in the chat and we will try to resolve them using the chat function. If you have connection issues, try turning off your video. Okay, our speaker this morning is Jennyvi Dizon, presenting Redesigning the Regency for the Runway. Jennyvi is a professional dress designer in New York City. She received her fashion design degree from Phoenix College and a business administration degree from Ottawa University. Her gowns have been in many runway shows from Beverly Hills to New York City, graced events such as the Emmy Awards, and have been featured in the New York Times, Glamour Magazine, and USA Today. Jennyvi is a New York member of the Jane Austen Society. It is my pleasure to introduce Jennyvi Dizon.
Hello, it's great to be here. Yeah, I mean, I think we can just get into it, right? I'll share my screen. All right. So I was actually telling Jane that this is actually better than having a runway show, because a runway show is only 5 minutes, and there's always that concern that people are not going to get the concept of my collection, because there is a narrative behind each collection I make. This one was my bridal collection that showed a few years ago. And it's a little slow. With the pandemic and everything, it was really hard to be creative, and my mom passed away in 2019, and so my creativity seemed like it was just zapped. And I found my love again in Jane Austen in 2021 when I reread her novels and then started thinking about doing a screenplay. I educated myself in the screenplay process, and Jane Austen really saved my life. And one of the books that really helped me with the process was Emma Thompson's Sense and Sensibility, Screenplay and Diaries, because she took a look at the process before and after with her diaries, and I kind of wanted to do the same thing with my collection, having a before and after look of what it feels like before it hits the runway and after. And to tell you the truth, you're all part of now my design process. You're kind of in the middle. If you were looking at me like a butterfly would. I'm a caterpillar, I'm in the cocoon, and you're all in the cocoon with me at this point. And then after the runway is when I hope to be a butterfly. But I was introduced to Jane Austen in high school after I found Pride and Prejudice in the library. And many times in my life, I've had to summon up my inner Lizzie to fight for going to fashion college versus accounting. My mom wanted me to be accountant. And I even asked my husband to marry me. And I summoned up Lizzie in that instance as well. And this is my husband. We were married in 2003, and I did make my dress. And then in 2016, I went to Epcot Center in Florida, and I married my Mr. Darcy shirt, and everybody was congratulating me. And I really didn't understand why until I'm like, oh, they just think I got married. I'm like, does this mean we get free dessert? If anyone offered me free dessert, I would have taken free dessert if they were offering, because that's what happened when I got engaged. The first time was I was at a restaurant, and my husband presented me the ring, and we got free dessert from that restaurant. But after I reread the novels, I was thinking, this can't be it. I mean, like I just wanted more of Jane Austen. I wanted to know more about her. I wanted to know maybe what her inspirations were. And so not only did I start researching her background, I researched her letters, I researched what was going on around her lifetime. I wanted to maybe create a story that weaved in with hers, and it just really inspired me to start visually creating clothes for her characters. And in my mind, I can make what I call character couture for the characters in her novels. And with the help of Jane Austen, the Jane Austen Society of North America, I attended the annual general meeting and sewed for some people who were attending the event. And here's a quote by Jane Austen herself in one of the letters. I am amused by the present style of female dress, the colored petticoats with braces over the white spencers and enormous bonnets upon the full stretch are quite entertaining. And that's it. It's I wanted to entertain people. I've always been an entertainer. When I was in the Philippines, my mom would say, you know, I was always dancing, putting on a show for people, and to see my clothes in a human body, it's rewarding versus hanging in a clothing store, lifeless on a hanger. And the book that I referenced that from was The Illustrated Letters of Jane Austen by Penelope Hughes Hallett. And now I'm combining the costume part versus fashion. So for costume, it is for stage, plays, film, television, with historical facts connected to that. And for fashion, which I went to school for, is putting the Regency in a more fashion forward way. And for the Jane Austen collection, I just want people to talk about Jane Austen. I want to create a lifestyle for myself where I'm surrounded by people who can talk my language, get excited over Jane Austen facts. I mean, Dakota Johnson is in the new Persuasion coming out in July, and most of my friends are not excited about that because they're not into Jane Austen. So I wanted to create a collection for us. And these are a couple of the references I did during the design process. My favorite class was a survey of historic costume. And I love mixing fact with psychology and what I'm into at the moment, which is Jane Austen. And Jodi Gale has a couple more books, but I really liked this book because it had pictures of actual needlework and lace. And then these are more books. Regency pattern references. I referenced Regency women's dress. I believe Alyssa told me that most of the authors are from New York, and there's a lot of patterns that they observed in that book. Or no, actually it's another book. But the middle one is, if you're into sewing, this will save time in recreating the pattern, because if you have a size and you want to size up or down, you don't want to make a whole pattern and start from scratch. And so this is a great one to have, to be able to size up and down without making a whole new pattern. And then fashion plates is my favorite because I love pictures. And this is where the design process really took flight for me. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had all these ideas, and I know when I'm in a groove is I wake up in the middle of the night, I have all these designs that I have to sketch right away. It's not pretty, but at least it has the basic idea of the collection. And it was a process of elimination, starting from chronologically when the books were published. And so Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, and so on from there. And I even went into some of the deeper work, but I decided just to keep with the 6 novels versus including everything. Like Lady Susan, I nixed Sanditon, nixed the Watsons, and anything earlier than that, I nixed. And then I went into the characters, tried to do it in order as well. And this is where the fun part begins, is the pattern making. I'm not actually the best pattern maker, but this is where the dress form helps, is if I have the measurements of the models, I can do it on the dress form and then transfer it to paper and then grade it up or down depending on what I have. Usually with the production managers, I have the models are pretty much around the same measurements. And you can see how mathematical you have to be to grade patterns, but it still saves a lot of time. And in inspiration, from Marie Kondo, I always ask, oh, does it spark joy? And with this collection, I was thinking, does it spark Jane? And the inner child in me loved those sticker books growing up. And so I had this as an example, Elizabeth and Jane in their undergarments, and then I put the stickers on. In creating the Jane Austen lifestyle that I want to now lead and live for the rest of my life, I was thinking, you know, I've taken bridal clients. I've been in the bridal industry for about 2 decades since I got married. And they always have a theme. They always want to live in that theme for as long as the wedding lasts. Well, you know, I want to live the Jane Austen lifestyle till I die. And I know that seems dramatic, but I'm like, it's the truth. And for specific events, I took from the novels, Emma's Box Hill Picnic dress and whatnot. And I found this fun photo of what Jane Austen would look like if she were styled in today's world. And I was thinking if she was blonde, she kind of looks like Carrie Underwood. So. And this one is, I looked up as many dresses, articles of clothing that one might have in the Regency, and there is quite a few. In the Regency, it really did start this this elitist mentality of, oh, you don't know what the difference between a private concert dress and an opera dress is? Well, you're not in our circle, you know? And so the Regency, unfortunately, I mean, it's been around forever, but there's this distinguishing yourself with dresses was a norm. And also it would be confusing because you would have to figure out what dress you're wearing, if it's a day dress, evening dress, and you know what the appropriate wear would be at a certain time of day. And I gave this example with the coronation gowns. I think, you know, with Bridgerton and the was it the diamond of the season? I think it's honestly might be coming back where people might be presenting the debutantes to people or to the social circles that they might be in. With the George IV, he became Prince Regent, and so when he was coronated, you know, you're presented, and this is just an example. And I was presented in 1995 to, I think, a state representative, and I'm in the middle looking at the girl in the dress with my godfather. I think I was a little jealous that she was prettier than I was. So, and then in Mansfield Park, there was a quote: "A woman can never be too fine while she is all in white." And this is just an example of the Regency trends from Ackerman's. And you can see that that the waistline is pretty high. And then towards the end of the Regency, the waistline starts getting lower. And then in the Victorian era, it was below the waist. What I liked about the Regency is that they're resourceful, and I want to show that in my own collection because I do like changing up the look without making up a whole dress. And doing this, it saved time and money because everything was handmade back then. They didn't have sewing machines, and so someone actually had to have the time to make these dresses. And in this picture, it's short. The sleeves are short, and then you put the long sleeves underneath, and it could easily be a long sleeve dress. Yeah, I just couldn't imagine putting all that work in for one dress. And the next slide is a color palette I liked. Again, this is showing how you can save money. The lining underneath is only at the front, and I saved about $180 because the silk was $60 a yard, and the front is all one piece. It's not two separate pieces. And then you can see here in the bottom right-hand photo that it's only connected at the side seam. And again, with mixing and matching, I like having different looks. This one is 3 different looks. You know, it has strapless. In the wedding industry, some of my clients have asked for a strapless dress underneath and then something over for the church, because their church wouldn't allow them to have the ceremony unless her shoulders were covered. And so for that reason, a lot of people like the change in look, or it was actually required in some cases. The middle gown is fun because it actually went to Burning Man. And just imagine this girl, hopefully she wore pants underneath, but if she didn't, it's Burning Man. I guess anything goes. I've never been to Burning Man, so I don't know. And this is just more looks and the inspiration behind it, or a sample of inspiration. This is from a previous collection. And that's the thing, is I've used the resourcefulness and changing up the look in previous runway collections. The orange dress I actually gave to my one of my bridal clients, and she uses it with pants and dresses, depending what the occasion is. There's not too many occasions that we dress up for, so she likes to keep it handy. And in the process, I was wondering what Jane Austen's own wardrobe looked like, and this is where the treasure hunting and snooping came in, with her letters and trying to find anything that could maybe lead me to visualize what she might have worn. This is a letter, and it says, "My cloak has come home. I like it very much and can now exclaim with delight, like J. Bond at hay harvest. This is what I have been looking for these 3 years. I saw some gauzes in a shop in Bath Street yesterday and only 4 pence a yard, but they were not so good as so pretty as mine. Flowers are very much worn, and fruit is still much more the thing. Elizabeth has a bunch of strawberries, and I have seen grapes, cherries, plums, and apricots. There are likewise almonds and raisins, French plums and tamarinds at the grocer's, but I have never seen any of them in hats. A plum or green gage would cost 3 shillings, cherries and grapes about 5, I believe, but this is at some of the dearest shops." And now you get to hear what New York City sounds like. I don't know if you can hear the ambulance, but we live in a very lively city. And just imagine what Jane Austen had to endure in Bath versus, the country, and the challenges of that creative process. But with this quote, I really got to see, oh wow, what would it look like if I started wearing vegetables in my hair, and waiting so long for just a cloak. We take for granted these days how easy and everything is online. We get upset having to wait like 4 or 5 days. They had to wait months for clothes. And this book, I met the author in one of my first meetups last year. And he really does make a good setup for what Jane might have said as far as dialogue, but he also gave Jane a personality for me. And I really enjoyed reading the book and just imagining what Jane's personality would look like, that would influence her buying decisions or influence her fashion decisions. And that's Sarah Rose Kearns. If you don't know, she's a playwright here in New York. And then this is one of the sneak peeks I have for the runway. So you get to experience the the pre-game show. So this is a sketch from Cassandra, and then later on it was remade by James Andrews. And so I took that inspiration, the color palettes, and created this dress. I think Jane Austen is my, like, William Shakespeare. I think she's better. I know I'm gonna get like scrutinized for that one, but she's just my favorite. And so I wanted the collar kind of William Shakespeare-esque, I guess. And then this is just the book I have, the reading book I have. I have two versions of books. I have the reading version and then the version that I don't touch because it's part of my collection. So with this one, this is where it really starts with Sense and Sensibility. The Prince Regent became the Prince Regent because his dad was deemed unfit to rule. And at the time the book was sold, she earned 140 pounds, and today's money, it's 12,049 pounds. And here is a couple of fashion plates that I drew inspiration from. I really like the blue color. This dress made me think of the reversible dresses that I had made from a manufacturer. And again, using that resourcefulness of having two looks in one. I actually wore one of my reversible dresses and got a stain on it at a restaurant. So it really did work out when I went to the bathroom and flipped it over, and I didn't have to have the shame of having a big stain in the middle of my shirt. So I'm sure they did that back in the day. Here is a 1826 fashion plate. And I know that Sense and Sensibility was published in 1811, and she started writing it sometime in 1797. But when a designer has a look that they get stuck in their head, if they don't flush it out the way they want to flush it out, that's when we have all these regrets and we think back and we should have done it this way. And so for a creative person, doing it the way they want to do it is so important. And anyone who is making a collection or is interested in making a collection, you'll stick to your guns, because I think that's where you'll feel the most reward from and feel the proudest is when you've done something, you stuck to your guns and it came out exactly the way you wanted it. And I like the blue color because it symbolizes trust and loyalty. And everyone knows that Eleanor was able to keep a secret, and with Lucy Steele telling her the secret and her feelings for Edward. And so I wanted to use blue for Eleanor. And this dress was worn by Kristen Cooper to the annual general meeting. And I use modern French and Italian fabrics just because before I started the process, I was in France. I got all these beautiful fabrics and I just wanted to use them. And I'm a huge Francophile. I want to live in Paris at least for a summer one day. But with the next one is Marianne. I wanted a softer look for Marianne and I like the pink color. So I wanted to combine the two. And pink evokes joy and happiness, and well, with every character that we love, you know, we want them to have joy and happiness. But you know, Marianne's heart was broken by Willoughby, and so I really wanted her to have the joy and happiness. And this is worn by Jillian Cooper. And just notice the French lace is scalloped, and I'm not going to go into how much I spent. It was a lot, but it was worth it. And then for Margaret, she is the youngest. She's 13 in Sense and Sensibility, and I just wanted to have a youthful color, innocence, and obviously hope and creativity. And this is the 1823 Ackerman repository plate. And here is our Margaret, worn by Corey Cooper. And her smile just lights up the room. So it was very appropriate that she wore the Margaret gown for the annual general meeting. And here they're all together. And they're all the daughter-in-law, so they were all Cooper sisters, not the Dashwood sisters, but it's funny that they ended up dressing up as the Dashwood sisters at the annual general meeting. And this was a highlight. It was a winter's day, and I opened up the JASNA news and found my gowns in there, and it was a crowning moment for me. So thank you. And that was the thing, is this also brought together new friends. It was cool to see family members, including Jane Austen, in their family, and again, the Jane Austen lifestyle. And this is a long letter, but Jane Austen in this letter is actually going to museums looking for snippets of Mr. Darcy or Mrs. Darcy, who will be the future Miss Bingley, and so I did the same thing in her work. Is I was piecing together, oh, what should I make from what scene, or you know, Lizzie with Lady Catherine, she really had to be strong, and you know, what color should we use? What colors show strength and individuality? So those are the things that, as a designer, I had to think of and put into my designs. And then I chose teal because it symbolizes individuality and a uniqueness. And this is from an 1820 fashion plate. So for Lizzie, Lindsay Allison is wearing it at the AGM. And so here is her dancing in it. And to see life in a gown, it really did it was really rewarding to see people enjoying themselves in the gown. And again, this is actually better than Runway show because I get to see it in its own life and just not on a runway show where they're just walking a straight line and walking back, and 5 minutes later the show is over. They really did enjoy themselves for the whole night. And these were a couple of the honorable mentions. Um, uh, she is from Maryland, Mary Ellen. Joy is in this dress. She's actually Filipino too, and so I use a fabric that mimics our fabric that we're known for, the pineapple fabric. And so I put that into the dress, knowing that she might relate to it because she's Filipino, and I wanted that in her dress. And then this was a long sleeve gown for Becky Dolan, who was a volunteer at the annual general meeting. And you can see Maryland, California. It was very cool to connect with these people that I'd never met before through the event and connect this way. So it was a very great event for me to get out of my shell, break that creative curse of not doing anything, not connecting with people. And so it was really fun. And then speak about more fun, I actually played Mrs. Jennings in one of the breakout sessions. I was on stage, and I believe doing something scary levels your life up. And I've never done any acting on a stage in public before. And it was really interesting to see myself grow just after the presentation, and think, oh wow, actors really do get underpaid sometimes to be able to do that day in, day out. And seeing a dress, a wardrobe full of my dresses was also rewarding, because one day I'm only going to wear my designs. Not sure about undergarments, but definitely outerwear. And just more fashion plates for inspiration. That's what Lady Catherine looks like, according to Robert Ball. This is from a book from 1945 that I have in my collection. Unfortunately, my book collection is growing, much to my husband's dismay. And this is Mr. Darcy and the Mr. Bingley at Assembly Hall. And just having these fashion plates sets you in a mood creatively. And so when I'm maybe a little stumped, I look at these fashion plates just to get a feel for what I can design next, because the creative process is hard, because you just can't call up inspiration or call your muse whenever you want it to. For me, there is a process. It has to strike and it has to motivate me. And this is Mr. and Mrs. Bennett. This is Mr. and Mrs., the future Mrs. Darcy. And I love how she's reading a letter as he walks away. And that was the thing, is it was so fun to read all of Jane Austen's letters, because it felt like I was a private eye and just, piecing together clues of her life and trying to connect my life with hers, and maybe trying to relate the creative process with hers. And here's Jane and Lydia. Now pay attention to Lydia, because this was an inspiration for my own Lydia, which is on the next page. She's showing a little ankle, and then my Lydia is showing a lot of leg. And in this photo shoot, I was thinking, oh, you know, she just married. She was just married, eloped, and now she's free to roam, you know, New York City. Here I took a snippet from one of the letters of Jane to Fanny Knight, and it reminded me of the scene of Henry Crawford asking for her hand in marriage, thinking that she was gonna accept just because she didn't have anyone else in her life to love, and having that confidence, and not knowing that that she actually loved Edmund. So you like him well enough to marry, but not well enough to wait. The unpleasantness of appearing fickle is certainly great, but if you think you want punishment for past illusions, there is, and nothing can be compared to the misery of being bound without love, bound to one and preferring another. That is a punishment which you do not deserve. And then she actually made the most money with Mansfield Park. I know it's not a favorite. Today, she would have earned $26,303. I do like Fanny a lot because I was a very shy girl growing up. And so having seen Fanny in the book stand up to her cousins and finding her voice, I was like, I can do that. And I just thought of Mariah Bertram getting married to Rushworth in this gown. I haven't started any of the wedding dresses other than the Augusta gown. And this one, she says that her costume is going to be made up of vine and leaves and paste. And this is just a pass gown that you can take context and make it into a gown. And flowers. This is a reference for Fanny's dress. I was thinking she probably wouldn't be too exciting as far as fashion, but she sewed the most in any of the characters' work. Was mentioned a lot in Mansfield Park, and so I thought she would appreciate the little dots in the fabric. But the color is a little boring, I guess. And with Emma, she dedicated it to the Prince Regent, but she actually didn't like him. And I feel like she was pressured by her advertiser, John Murray, to do that. So I think she said she dedicated it to Prinny, which was a derogatory term for the prince at the time. And then she only got 40 pounds for it, which is today $4,155. And I wanted to include some of the money she made because I felt like she was very underpaid. And here is fabric I'll use for Harriet's dress. She had 3 crushes, and it's the he loves me not dress, because daisies are usually the flower that you do the petal game with. Strawberries from the scene at Donwell Abbey where Mr. Knightley invites everybody to his estate. So you'll be seeing that. This is inspiration from a quote from Emma. very little white satin, very few lace veils, a most pitiful business. And I found it funny, this is on the last page of Emma, that she wasn't even there. She was actually making her opinion based off of Mr. Elton's description of Emma's wedding. And then this is what I thought her gown would look like. Over trimmed. At the time, if you were over trimmed or over ornated, it was considered vulgar and in poor taste. And not that Augusta didn't have good taste, but she was just over the top. And so I actually sewed over 100 feathers individually cut and sewn into the top of the neckline and the train. And this is a dress I made for a real life matchmaker, Christina Pineda. And the front part is beaded. And I accented it with a silver lining, a silver ribbon. This is what the Knightleys would look like if they had a baby. I wanted to make it fun. The story doesn't have to end just because the novel, make your own adaptations in your mind after that. For Northanger Abbey, she actually died in July 18th, 1817. So the book was published after her death. And a lot was happening in 1817. Henry was having financial troubles. Charles's ship, the Phoenix sunk. And then, during that time, she was ill and then she died. In Northanger Abbey, she actually put in a reference for baseball. And here in America, baseball wasn't a term popularized until 1845. So she was ahead of her time in that sense as well. And then here are just more fashion plates. The little collar, the detail in the sleeve, the police on the left. And then for Catherine's dress, she was innocent and she was curious, and I thought, the colors that had youth, curiosity, again, it was yellow, and I wanted her to have a light floral feminine look to her. And then again, with Persuasion, she had already died, and both Northanger Abbey and Persuasion made her 500 pounds, which is 45,636 pounds, 639 today. And I found a letter stating that Cassandra wanted Louisa to have her gold, gold necklace, gold chain. And it's interesting that she used real characters or real names in her books, because there is a Louisa in Persuasion. And with the gold reference, I wanted to incorporate that in the Persuasion part of my collection. And here's the gold sequin lace I was cutting while I was watching Devony in the background. I signed up for the great courses, and so I was actually sewing and cutting lace while I was making the collection. And I'm not done yet, but this is just a couple of the inspirations, is the psychology behind color, which is the gold is love, compassion, magic, and wisdom, which I really needed to break me from grieving and start creating again. And I do have to say that this is what mourning dress looks like. So just because she died. And I'm not sure I want to include black in the collection for my first runway show. That's yet to be decided. I do want to include my prints. I have a print behind me that I have in fabric, and I follow up with magazines and whatnot. This is from Cosmopolitan, and they said butterflies were in. And like I said before, the transition between grieving and creating was like a butterfly for me, where I was a caterpillar. I'm in the cocoon, and I hope to fly with this collection. And here are just more dresses that I may use. The silhouette is, again, Jane Austen's supposed silhouette, along with my dress. This is a painting I did, and it was the year I asked my husband to marry me, and I wanted to maybe connect me and Jane together with the painting I made. And here's Devaney saying bye. We're close to the end here, and I just wanted to show again that I was sewing the Jane Austen print while looking at the great courses. So on September 10th, 2022, I'll be debuting my New York Fashion Week collection, the Jane Austen collection, during New York Fashion Week. And so from now till then, I'll probably be doing some promotions. I like to give away things. I like to share the love. And so it might be worth it to stay connected with me. I might be giving away a couple seats to New York Fashion Week. So if you can get to New York, you might be able to actually be front row. And in the beginning, I mentioned that a screenplay, I was in the screenplay writing process before I did the collection. And so my brain is actually now brain damaged with Jane. And I was like, oh, that's funny. My brain is Jane damaged. And so it's going to be a fictionalized version of my life. And so I am doing a screenplay. And if anyone is interested in sharing ideas with that, I'm open as well. And then this is my information. Jennyvi at jennyvinewyork.com. The website is just my name, jennyvi.com. And then hopefully janeaustencouture.com will fly and become a success. It's still a startup for me. Like I said, I really want to make Jane Austen a lifestyle, and hopefully, you're in it with me. And that's it. So, and I'll just stop. You want me to stop sharing now?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Jennyvi. That was a fabulous presentation.
I felt my voice a little shaky, but hopefully the information still came across.
That was great. That was fascinating. Thank you. I'm going to.
Oh, Liz is wearing the print I sewed.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, that's the Jane Austen print.
Yes.
So that's going to be available after Fashion Week. I'll be making shawls, dresses with the print. I'll probably be doing some Regency designs, but the prints is where I love, because I graphically designed it. So
Lovely. I'm going to hand over the question and answer to Leah. So Leah, please unmute yourself. And Leah's going to ask you the questions that were put forth in the chat. Go ahead, Leah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leah, the secretary for JASNA Southwest, and I'll be asking the questions. So we have quite a few questions for Jenny. If you have any more, please put them in the chat. But with the amount of questions we have right now, I don't know if we'll get to all of them, so I apologize in advance. So first question, and this might have been answered already, and let me go ahead and copy it into the chat so everyone can see. Copy and paste. I love to see some of the dresses from that photo shoot at Versailles. Can Jennyvi show us some of those photos? And I guess to add to that, is there a website you could link us to in the chat?
The photo shoot from Versailles, I haven't posted it on any links yet, but I will if you maybe message me, and I'm open to. Actually, I think yeah, there might be one coming up in a couple days where I can maybe get some up. So, and I can. Here's my website at jennyvi.com.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Your Eleanor's day dress is in plaid. What kind of patterns were available to Regency women?
There was a lot of florals and whatnot. There was actually Indian prints too, because India had an influence during that time. Yeah, that I think there's plaids, but we have to remember that there is not as many fabric sources, so it's like cottons and silks. So I think it was mainly plain fabrics, but you know, I didn't research that in depth yet. So, to be honest, and I want to be honest.
That's fine.
But I will take the journey with you, and as soon as I find out, I will message you if you do email me.
Okay, so these two questions kind of go together. What is a half dress, and is a coronation gown the same as a court dress? So like the different kind of dresses during the Regency era.
Yeah, the court dress was something that you wore if you were in front of like royalty, or if you were invited to Buckingham Palace or those royal places. The coronation dress happened in 1821 because of obviously George's he became king in 1821, and so he had the coronation, and it wasn't until another coronation happened with Queen Victoria. And so like court dresses you can wear if you attended court, if you're invited to present yourself to royalty. A half dress, I have to look further into that, but I feel like it was the dresses that were like full bodice, and then it had just the open skirt, like it was open in the middle so you can see the skirt underneath, because some of these dresses were separates.
All right, so next question. Could a lady put on one of these outfits alone, or did she need a maid or sister helping? A lot of Austen adaptations imply that girls got dressed by themselves, with the maid coming in at the end to do their hair. Is that accurate?
Oh no, they definitely need maids. It's funny. I hope Alyssa doesn't mind, but Alyssa actually asked me to help her get dressed before the annual general meeting because of the buttons in the back. And at the time they had the corseting in the back. So I even have trouble with just the zippers alone. So yeah, they definitely needed maids. Those adaptations, yeah, they, I guess that might not be too accurate. Uh,
Okay, next question. Do you also design Regency inspired clothes for men or women who cross dress as men?
I used to say that if it involves fabric and sewing, I can pretty much make anything. My mom at one point asked me to make her a chicken costume, and then she won first place in her company's Halloween costume party. So if it involves anything sewing, I can figure it out. The thing about men's sizing is, and because I have a drag queen friend that does drag queen clothing, is that men have broader shoulders and different proportions than women. And so I work mainly with brides and have only really experience with the female body. But that won't stop me from sewing for anybody.
Great, great. Okay, next question. This is in reference to inspirations. Have you seen the Victoria and Albert Museum collection in London? The curators may be helpful for inspirations.
I wish I did, because that was one of my stops. But the last time I was in London, it was a short trip and I was really tired. But the last time I was in London was when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle got married. And so not that I attended, but I was there when everything was going on, and everything just seemed extra busy at stores, extra busy at tourist places. And I kind of I just went to Harrods for inspiration. So unfortunately I didn't make it.
Okay, next question. It sounds like in addition to designing, you also do a lot of the construction of the gowns. Is that typical?
For other designers, probably not. They usually have a full team. I've been sewing since I was 5, so sewing just comes naturally for me. And sewing helps me eliminate things that could be problems in the future as far as sizing. And so, yeah, it really isn't typical for a designer of the collection during New York Fashion Week to do all the sewing, all the pattern making and whatnot. I'm just a one woman show. And so normally these bigger designers have a full team of production and design. I mean, I wish I could get there, honestly. maybe with your support, I can be that person.
Next question. In a home with multiple ladies of, say, the middle class like Jane, would they typically employ a dressmaker or acquire a bolt of fabric and sew it themselves at home? Also, would it be unusual for sisters to have dresses made of the same fabric?
I wouldn't be opposed for sisters using the same fabric, but it's almost like playing that who wore it better game, and I would probably want to avoid that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they would honestly do the whole bolt just because they probably save money doing it in bulk versus piecemeal with different fabrics, because different fabrics have different prices. And so, for a shop owner to get rid of one whole bolt was probably more cost efficient. And yeah, they would definitely sew it at home unless you're able to pay someone. And that's where really the income, having a lot of income would be nice, is to not do all the sewing. But in Fanny Price, I think Miss Norris always gave her work to do. And so it's probably sewing or mending Mariah's old dresses, or Julia's Julia's dresses. So I'm guessing that whoever was the deemed housekeeper would probably do all the sewing. And unfortunately in Mansfield Park, Fanny was always treated almost like the help.
Okay, so
But I'm
here's
guessing they did make their own dress patterns just because everything was fitted to their body.
okay, and here's the next question.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you need to mute yourself, Leah.
Sorry. Do you have a website where we can buy or commission your clothing from? What is the process? How long will it take? And do you incorporate the customer's ideas like a cultural design, ethnic fabrics, etc.?
I'll type it in here. Jennyvi.com. You can get a hold of me or email me at Jennyvi at Jennyvi New York. And with my brides, everything was custom made, and so I actually built them a website where they can see the process from start to finish. I would send them at least 10 sketches because some people might not be very visual, and so to see sketches with the dresses that they like combine into one dress, and then they would pick the top 3, and then we would tailor it down from there. And then from there, we would go fabric shopping. I would give her samples, and then I would make a prototype before starting the real dress because the muslin was cheaper. At the time, it was only $3 yard versus if I had $60 yard silk, I wouldn't want to use that in case I messed up. And silk is really delicate. So if you did mess up, you would probably be leaving holes in the dresses, and if it didn't fit right on the muslin, then transferring that muslin to the real thing just saves you a lot of money as far as mess ups.
Oh, please unmute, Leah. Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Did they make their own dress patterns or were there some available to purchase or share among other women?
That's something I need to research as well. I think if Alyssa knows, Alyssa is actually a fashion historian. I'm sure they actually had patterns to buy because in the, was it 1600s or 1700s, they would actually pass a little miniature doll and then around. So I'm sure they had patterns that were probably around, but I'm not
I can help
exactly
you out.
Yeah, go ahead.
So paper patterns for purchase for the general public weren't really common until after Jane Austen's lifetime, when sewing sort of became more standardized. And also you were able to print paper more inexpensively, but some women did take patterns off their own dresses or their friends' dresses. I know Jane Austen in her letters talks about how Cassandra let some friends take patterns of their caps, and she wasn't really happy about that. So they weren't working so much from patterns because dressmakers usually just draped directly on their clients' bodies. So they were there, but not the way they are now.
So thank you. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing about me as a designer is that I got into some of the dress facts, but I wanted to move forward with the inspirations I had in my head. And so in the presentation, I was like, you know, I wanted to include some facts about where I got my information, but at the same time, I didn't get too technical. So I apologize. But I like I said, if you have any suggestions, maybe we can do like a group learning Zoom and do like a Regency fashion Zoom one day and just share ideas and share facts.
All right, we have about 10 minutes left. If there's any more last minute questions, please post them. And for me, I have another question, a personal question. Okay, how do you find hard to find fabrics such as like silk or like you said in your presentation, like the piña fabric for the Filipina inspired dress?
Um, you know, I'm lucky that I live in New York, so there's probably 40 stores on one street, and Mood is one, but uh, online and my dad actually lives in the Philippines now, and so I ask him, I'm like, can you please send me some, because the pineapple fabric that is available in America is so expensive. And so if I can get my dad to send me some fabrics from the Philippines, I will.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. Oh wait, last one. Is your Jane Austen designed fabric for sale?
Oh, I mean, I haven't thought about it, but sure, maybe maybe if you ask nicely. Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't mind sharing it. Um I think other designers would, just for, you know, because it's intellectual property or whatnot. But in the spirit of Jane Austen, and if you're going to spread the Jane Austen love, sure.
Okay, another question. For your runway show, do you think you will have to brief your models on their inspiration characters? I'm guessing you can't put Jane Eyre as a qualification for being one of your models.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of their looks are the Zoolander looks, and the one, you know, just the one runway, and unfortunately they might not put too much personality in, so probably not. But that's a good question. They should know who Jane Austen is if they're going to be in the clothes. Yeah, it's like Lady Catherine Boss's Prada around. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, another question. Were the same silhouettes used for all women? Tall, short, slim, plump, busty, less busty, etc.?
I don't think so, just because what Alyssa said, that most of the dresses were draped on the actual person, and that's where I learned draping, is that, you know, yes, we have one dress form available to us as a designer, but yeah, back in the day, everything was handmade, hand fitted to one body, and if you're going to spend 3 months making a dress, it better fit to your body perfect. And so that's where dressmakers probably it was probably the hardest for dressmakers to do all the fittings, and that's it. Is with the runway, I barely have, I think I get one fitting for this production, and so I wish I had more fittings, but in the Regency they probably had fitting after fitting just to get everything right.
Okay, any more questions before we start closing up here?
Well, that was a fabulous presentation. Thank you very much, Jennyvi. And Susie, do you have anything more? Yes. Susie Wampler, okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for attending Jennyvi Dizon's presentation, Redesigning the Regency for the Runway. We'll see you again.
Thank
Just
you.
want to thank everybody for coming. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennyvi.
Thank you.
And thanks, Jane and Leah.
Thank you.